So, there we go. We are good to go. I'm going to move this chair, though.
You're good.
Kick it and then hit the mic.
Straight.
Or hit the camera.
Hello and welcome to the Fsh Tank Business Podcast, episode 3. Today we're interviewing Ethan Halfhide from CustomerDiscovery.co. Ethan, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. First, do you want me to look into the camera? Look at you? What do you want me to look at? Camera?
Whatever you're comfortable with, man.
All right. So I'm Ethan Halfhide. I'm the founder of CustomerDiscovery.co. And what we do is we help startups, basically bootstrap founders so far, some pre-seed founders, do product market fit faster, get there faster so they know whether they can scale or raise investment. And we do so via 2 ways. We recruit early adopters for them for customer discovery interviews. And now we're launching a product market fit engine, which is very exciting.
Sounds fun. So what led you to start this company?
The main thing is, I'd kind of going through it myself, I'd say, trying to start products or start ideas or validate ideas, right? Because if you're an entrepreneur through and through, you never stop having ideas. Like very few will make it to the point to where you're ready to build it. But I wanted to build a marketplace to where you could validate ideas. And then, you have data to say, like, this is a good idea. I should pursue this, because there's people out there that want this. So that's what led me to build it.
So you built something that you were interested in yourself. Like, you know what? If you could dream up a magic product to help your business, that's something you felt like you needed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a little bit offline, but, I really wanted to build marketpain.co, which is similar to Fsh Tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
A place to where you could really crowdfund those ideas too, in addition to validating it. And I realized the main barrier to entry there was too high for some kid in his, I always say in my parents' basement, because that's where you hear all these startups. But really, I was just up in my room trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do now with COVID going on? Because I had no leads, I had no jobs lined up. And really, it was ICAP that helped me understand, like, hey, it took Robinhood 3 years to get to MVP just because of financial regulations and stuff like that. Are you ready for that? I was like, no. The barrier to entry for fintech, anything with investment and having to have a broker dealer situation is just far too high. So basically, we pivoted away from that. Still on the roadmap, but years down the road.
Same.
Yeah.
It's a significant investment. I mean, just to get legal, it's like, you might be looking at over 100,000, and then having the licenses and stuff with the SEC and FINRA, it's quite involved.
Yeah, the barrier to entry. You're jumping through flaming hoops every step of the way.
So how are you helping founders get to product market fit faster? Like, what does that look like?
So it's so I come from the product industry, right? So I'm a product manager by trade. The way that we pay the bills so far, CustomerDiscovery.co is slightly profitable. Ramen noodle profitable, I think, is the the startup terminology. But I run a product and UX design agency, and I'm always amazed at the amount of founders that just don't know how to. There is a framework for validating your product or your idea. It's called the Product Market Fit Survey. Granted, the term product market fit, it's only been around for 5 years. Andreessen Horowitz kind of founded the term, right? Because you have to have product market fit, founder investor fit, all these different fits. Sean Ellis coined the product market fit survey, and it's really simple. It's one question, and you ask a bunch of users, or you ask a bunch of potential users, and you say, you analyze, did 40% or more of them say that they would be very disappointed if this product were to not exist? Yeah. And I realized, okay, that's great. You have a way to validate it. But in 5 years, that's been the only framework created to validate an idea. There has to be better. So that's why we're trying to iterate over that survey with multiple questions backed by UX research teams that have done a lot of customer discovery and formal discovery UX research efforts with their startups and agencies, and having them consult with us on how to build a better product market fit engine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it, man. It kind of reminds me of this whole industry that we're looking at is maybe business incubation, getting business from a napkin sketch of an idea into the, wide mainstream adoption, and, really generating a lot of demand and interaction between buyers and sellers. looking at that industry, it just reminds me of like, let's say you're like a web designer, right? You build websites for everybody else. And while you're doing that, you're building other people's businesses and they're taking off and going to the moon. But like your business, your website might suck as a web designer. So like it seems like the industry's been kind of like still for like the past 5 years with that working definition of product market fit and
Yeah.
how people are interacting with that.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's like we talked about this too. It's such an ongoing need, and that's really tough to communicate to investors as well, because a lot of them aren't business owners. But you have to validate that product, and then you have to validate all the features that you want to build within that product. So it's a very ongoing need. And if we're able to build that engine for product market fit, our assumption is we can also build that engine for feature market fit. So our customer lifetime value could be from the very time, the very first idea you have to the MVP you have to iterating to 2.0 to now you've raised investment and now you're releasing entirely new features, entirely new products within that platform. We think we can help every step of the way.
That's cool. It's like a reinvention engine.
Yeah. Trying to.
So is it just you working on customer discovery or is it a team?
I think we spoke about interns. And at one point, I remember in my Slack workspace, we had 70 people in the Slack workspace, and that was a living hell because I'm a solo founder, right? So, like, I was trying to manage everybody. I was trying to read organizational books about how to structure teams, and I'd break things down into rule of thirds. So within, I had HR, sales, marketing, UX design, UX research, product. Of course, software developers, everything was in thirds, right? I never had a team bigger than 3 for each department. And basically that's how it started out. It came down to like a core 10 of us. And I think it was 22 across both companies because there's some overlap between them. But I'd say now the team, because people, in a startup, especially a bootstrap startup, you can't afford to pay someone full time, pay a lot of people full time. You can afford to pay 1 or 2. Now it's like a core 5, I'd say, that are working on this, but looking to add a few now that we've kind of validated and we're moving a lot faster, we're looking to build the team.
Solid, dude. Cool. So what industry trends stand out to you in this whole customer discovery space? Like where does your company fit in? Or
that is so exciting because the trend is, especially with COVID, like it was happening before COVID, but people are getting, this in the tech industry, I'm speaking, they're getting high paying jobs, man. Like regardless of what you're doing at a tech company, a lot of times you're doing well, right? But now that's not enough. Like is it something hierarchy of needs? It's not Pavlov. I think Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once you start making all that money, you start to realize like that's not the answer, but it takes making that money to have the answer. So we explain it to investors like we have 2 demographics, like the indie hacker, that's kind of like ours, like we're full-time into this thing, like we made that decision. Then you also have people who work full-time jobs and they're getting paid $100,000, getting paid $200,000, whatever, but the passion isn't there. They're working for a large conglomerate and their stock options are hidden, but they're like, I want to build something. I want passion. I want to build something that helps people. So they have purchasing power. Like people don't realize that they have a lot of purchasing power. They'll pay thousands of dollars to recruit early adopters and whatnot. And the Great Resignation has further accelerated that because of COVID. A lot of people were resigning from their jobs. They're pursuing their startup passions.
Cool. So there's a growing demand because of the Great Resignation and just shifts in the industry.
Yeah.
More and more people starting companies.
More and more people are starting companies.
Okay, cool. So there's a surge in demand. How is that demand currently being tackled? Like who is helping these startups?
That's a really good standpoint. I think blogs. I think really when I speak to founders that, the types of founders we're speaking about, not ones that are in accelerators because they're getting like mentorship like us, like
structured.
Program. Most people are starting probably the way you and I started, where I was reading hella books, dude. I was going through books so quickly and then going to blogs, purchased Udemy courses and stuff like that. But really, like those things are good. They live by itself. They're evergreen content. But really, you want an engine that you can put data into real time, get a dynamic score that changes every time you enter data. And you can see, over time that score is going up or going down. Reading a blog or an article or taking a Udemy course is like, okay, I've gotten that knowledge, but you don't see how you're implementing that knowledge effectively or not. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
yeah.
Like, it'd be cool. I guess the hardest part in like the whole reaction, right, is like just getting it started, like
Yeah.
giving founders the courage to maybe leave their, high paying tech job and, put more
Yeah.
time into building their business. So I guess having that validation from the crowd through initial users and the customer discovery process and all that it brings, would you say it gives people the courage to take the next step and keep building?
That's like an ongoing joke internally. Like people are like, when do I know if it's the right time to take the leap? I'm like, why do you feel like you have to take a leap? You have a job that's paying well, 40 hours a week. I'm pulling probably 60, 70 hours a week, right? I have a lot of free time still. So how about in your spare time, test the waters, get some sort of data that says there's validation here. So test the waters with 1 foot. You have money, implement a few tests. When you get to that point where you're very close to product market fit or problem solution fit is the first thing you're going after, then how about you start building out a product? Then you start to like dial back from work. Maybe like you quit then, but don't just say, I have this fantastic idea. I think it's the next big thing. And then you're gone, Right.
So you mentioned that you have so you're working on the startup, customerdiscovery.co. You're paying the bills through your agency, doing product, UX and that kind of thing. So like, how do you break into the startup field? Like, what got you interested in this? And like,
that's a good question. Without, how much time do I have? Because I could go very extensive.
Yeah, I mean, let's give it 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, that's plenty of time. So I was a kinesiology major in college, like exercise science, right? Like I graduated. I was a personal trainer, no
Where
tech
at?
background. Longwood
Okay,
University.
cool.
Yeah. So I started working for a private studio, and if you guys know anything about personal training, you don't make a ton of money, especially starting out, right? I didn't have a big book of business, but what I did have was a lot of free time. So I went to Barnes and Nobles and I read Lean Startup. I read Lean Product Playbook. I read all of these different books that helped teach me about marketing, sales, tech, all of that, startups in general. So in time, I built up my in-person book of business, and I said, okay, I want to develop an app. Actually, I went about this twice. Immediately after graduating college, I put my college graduation money into an app, and it failed horribly. Offshore development team had no idea what I was doing. Just the worst experience. My parents were like, we're never giving him graduation money again. It was like $1,600 or something like that.
That sucks.
No, it was great because that led me to Panacea Fit, right? Because I failed that first time, I was like, I got to be successful now. And not that Panacea Fit was this wild success story, but it was definitely, I was failing forward, and launching that mobile fitness app through Trainerize. It was white labeled, and forming a small team and building up a lot of users and realizing like a freemium subscription is really good for customer acquisition because it's, gets them in there with value, and then you can monetize from there. Learned a lot. That got me on Barbara Corcoran's podcast. That got me a job with, I was reading Entrepreneur Magazine in what do you call it, in Barnes and Nobles, and they call this guy the Elon Musk of the Elon Musk of the fitness industry. So I reached out to him, and beautiful friendship came about. He's the CEO of a business down there. He flew me down there, and he said, "How about opening a studio for me in Miami, and launching that software platform for us?"
Wow.
And I was like, no, I'd probably party too much. So I didn't do it. And I just built up my book of business. So I didn't do it. And then he said, hey, I think we're going to expand to New York. The offer still stands, and we'll pay for your rent. Like all living is under us. And I was like, yeah, just tell me when. And we did that. So then, I really got a taste of the Big Apple. Saw other people in the tech industry, and I was kind of in the tech industry, but not. But in my free time, I was learning how to code. And as I was learning how to code, I realized learning how to code was not for me. So really quickly, I was like, I want to be a product manager. I want to work with the engineers. I want to help them figure out what to build, but I want to be on the business side with the marketing team, speaking to customers and stuff like that. So
when was that?
That was 2020, up until March of 2020. I was in this nice apartment. I was loving life. I felt like I had made it, even though I hadn't made it. I was living above my means.
Florida or New York?
This is New York. Yeah, this is in Manhattan. I lived on 52nd and 11th. So like right by Times Square. The apartment was very expensive, very nice. But long story short, I was still unhappy because I like felt like I wasn't quite where I wanted to be. So I guess COVID was like, hey, we hear you, buddy. Like, how about this? Lose your apartment, lose your job, move back in with your parents' house. Yeah. And I lived there. And I applied for hundreds of product management jobs, man. Hundreds. Got none. Absolutely none. And I thought I was getting a few and didn't get them. So the whole time I was interviewing, I was also building marketpain.co. Went through ICAP a little bit, didn't go through all of it. I didn't get accepted because they disproved the validation of it. It was going to take too long, but pivoted, formed a team of interns, customerdiscovery.co. And then I told you I was fixing boat engines in my spare time and then working at Home Depot, crafting the business model. And then our first customer, Co-Founders Lab, offered to pay us $3,600 a month to do formal customer discovery for them. And they said, don't you want to start an agency? I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I could. So we started Lean Discovery Group. And then from there, the rest is kind of history. We just built from there on both sides. Yeah.
Dude, that's amazing.
It was a hell of a
journey,
ride.
dude. That's crazy.
I'm glad it's over. Well, I'm glad it's not over, but I'm glad it's in phase 2. Phase 1 was very difficult, you know?
I mean, who would have thought, just going to Longwood University, studying, the K
Exercise
word,
science.
right?
Yeah.
Exercise science.
Yeah.
Right. Imagine, you're fresh out of college. You're like probably a broke personal trainer.
Yeah.
You're trying to get a book together of clients.
$35,000 in debt because of student loans.
Oh
yeah.
my God. That's an amazing story.
It's an entrepreneur story. Looking back, yeah. I think I do have my origin story for sure.
True respect. And you got my respect, my friend.
That's
amazing. So crazy. That was a lot of good content. So what stage of development is your company in today?
All right. So we've learned some lessons. We hired, like I said, a team of interns or people fresh out of coding boot camps and gave them their first working professional job, which was great because I had no money, right? So that was great that we built a product, not for free, but a lot leaner than we otherwise would have. But we realized with people then moving on to getting paid positions, because they did great work. Like the team is fantastic. Like they'll be lifelong friends. I'm sure of that. Played Call of Duty with my UX designer and whatnot. Like we're all good friends, but now they're getting like high paying tech jobs, right? Which is good. I can't afford to pay that high tech. We haven't raised $10 million and whatnot. So the platform kind of fell by the wayside, and we realized that while we did get the product, we are in MVP. We've validated many aspects of it. The website's completely broken. There's no lead. There's no tech lead on there. So now we're in MVP, pivoting to a web design and development agency and moving forward there, which I would recommend if people could start with no code, validate that way. That'll get you quickest to market. You can hire someone for like next to nothing to do no code, get out there. And then when you have a good bit of validation, then pivot to a formal web design and development agency for more complex functionality.
So let's say somebody's watching this, they're fresh into this whole space. What's no code?
Okay, so no code, you can use Webflow and Bubble. They're the industry leaders, and it's basically like coding blocks. Like you think, if you know about how to write code, you're writing complex algorithms, right? You're creating data structures and algorithms that tell a computer what to do and what to display to you on a website. Everything around us is built from a computer nowadays, and it's powered by code, right? It's like how words teach us how to act and teach us what to do. But what no code does is it basically takes those letters, those sentences, those paragraphs, and builds them into entire stories, essentially, which you can drag and drop, right? It's like a component of a website. Oh, here you go. It's a template. Drop it. You don't need to learn how to code. Honestly, just from knowing what a good website looks like, you can replicate that. And they have existing templates too. And it does everything a website or a mobile app can do. You can launch on the App Store or Google Play Store. You can launch it online and you can get users to it.
Okay. So I guess that kind of brings me to the next question. Like, what is the actual anatomy of Customer Discovery Co. look like? Like what?
Like the code, the tech stack?
Like, yeah, I mean, like.
Yeah. Okay. So we're built on AWS, which is like serverless hosting. AWS is, even if you build no code, you probably want to host there. Node.js on the back end. And then, of course, HTML, CSS. I think just mostly React on the front end. React, Node.js, AWS, and MongoDB on the server side.
Sounds like a MERN stack.
It is. Yeah, it is a MERN stack. Yeah, that's cool.
So, okay. So, like, what is it? I mean, like, I'm new to this whole customerdiscovery.co. So, like, if I go to the website, what am I looking at? How am I interacting with it? And
Sure. I'll tell you what the happy path is supposed to look like. That's what UX designers say for like, if all goes well, here's what a user should do, right? This is
what's the
not what,
dream?
yeah, here's,
Yeah.
yeah. So what would happen as a startup founder, which you are, is that you would join, you would list your startup, you would list what type of users for the startup, right? And there's a bunch of industry tags that you can help filter. Early adopters would see that. Relevant ones would submit interest for your project. You guys would book a customer discovery call. Once you do, and we're integrated with Twilio, so there's an on-site customer discovery interview you could do, and that data is stored in your platform, so you can review that later. And then there's a product market fit survey that we would want them to be able to fill out, and then that the results of that survey, remember 40% very disappointed or not, along with other numerical values, will get computed and displayed to you in a product market fit score, and that would change over time as you get more valuable feedback, because of course you only need about really 5 to 10 people to give you feedback before you know what to build. You're going to get a lot of common answers. We've realized smaller sample sizes, faster iteration, then come back, test it again with another batch of 10 or maybe the same batch. And then you get more positive feedback over a period of time. You can show that to investors.
Yeah.
Because you can't currently show that to investors, can you? So you show them a period over time. In November,
There's
here's
no
where
like
we were.
standard way of
Yeah.
displaying that.
Yeah. And then you
Yeah,
can show that it kind of like product hunt, top product of the day.
Right.
Investors are like, oh, good social proof. We love it. But now if you see your product market fit score was 20, and then you launched a new feature, then it was 35, and then you gain paying customers, and now it's at 50, and now you have more paying customers and more free users. Like that's a good report to show investors, I think.
So it's pretty involved. Like so somebody comes on and this is just like a total stranger, they're looking at your company from, you know, they just submitted like a list of interests. Like, I'm interested in testing out these kinds of,
Yeah. Yeah. And for the early adopter side, because we broke down the startup side, we want early adopters. We kind of validated early tech adopters didn't really want to be paid for the interviews. They didn't care. Right. Of course they would want to, but they're like, it's not a top priority. We want to provide product incentives. Like, if you're going to provide feedback on a startup founder's product, obviously you probably want some incentive to, like, if you like it, try it out for free or something like that. So then we're building that into the framework. So early adopters, as they provide feedback, they earn incrementally better incentives. Like, you get the product for free for X amount of time. You get the product for free for a longer amount of time. Now you earn $5 plus the product incentive. Now you earn $15. They can rank up over a period of time and earn rewards for giving good
sounds
feedback.
like Kickstarter a little bit, like the perks-based reward or
Well,
perks-based crowdfunding.
But that is giving money.
Right.
Like, they
It's
earn,
different.
that's trading money for a product incentive. We're trading mind share for
Information,
product
yeah.
incentive. Yeah, exactly. Like feedback and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay. So like in like the happy path, like the ideal scenario, somebody comes on, they just interact with a random company like Fsh Tank on Customer Discovery Co. What what happens next? Like,
So once they interact,
yeah, so like so I get like a report that I can show to investors.
yeah. So what we're going to do is basically, so there's a dashboard where you can view all your data. And what we want to do is display that score over a period of time. But also we do. So, okay. So let me talk about our competitors. Our competitors do asynchronous connection. So meaning you connect with that person, and sometimes, like user interviews does that, and you can continuously speak to that person over a period of time. And what we want to do is allow that, and that's the only. So user interviews does that. You can meet with people over a period of time.
All right.
But for some of the more formal ones with a research panel, you don't know who's giving you feedback. You can't meet them. You can't follow up with them after. So the purpose of building, it's like faceless, right? Is
You want to keep it clinical and transactional?
No, we want to do the
No.
opposite. So
Okay.
they're very faceless, like with the research panel and stuff like
Right.
that. You don't know who's giving feedback. You just know they fit your target demographic. For us, we want to put a face in front of that person. We want to say, all right, yeah, you can pay, but now you can also connect, and they can try your platform. You guys connect off of the platform if you want. But if you want to do a customer discovery interview and you want that data to be factored into the product market fit engine, come back to our platform, do that. Everything
like
else
it.
you can do
Yeah.
off the platform. Yeah.
I like it a lot
Yeah.
more.
And that's what user
It's
interviews.
fostering a more intimate connection offline. Like, it's like Jesus when he went and started, a whole new religion, right? Like he had 12 like hyper obsessed, nutty people that were like
Exactly.
willing to, go the extra mile. And
Right. And one
connect
stabbed him in the
offline.
back, which I hope we'd never have to deal
Right.
with. But yeah. But that was the thing. So the CEO of User Interviews helped us get our start. So that's why I referenced them as a competitor, but in a good light, because that's one thing they do that we really like. They don't do the feedback analysis or anything. But if you pay for someone that you want to get in touch with through User Interviews, you can get in touch with them for life. That's how we got our start. A lot of our early stage founders, User Interviews, paid for them, kept them in the loop. As we built, we tested with them.
Solid. Okay. So you do have competitors. What's gonna make Customer Discovery Co. like whoop them?
Yeah. So the main thing is, adding a face to the early tech adopters, allowing them, putting the freedom to rank up and do what they want on the platform. And there's sure, we're technically a middleman, but we're a very hands-off middleman.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to do the hands-on screening of them in terms of okay, you won't be able to see this person, but just take our word for it. They fit the target demographic. No, you guys connect. You guys do your thing. 2, we're going to do the feedback analysis as well. We want to automate it. If you want us to recruit early tech adopters for you, we'll do that. And then you come back in a week time frame, or when just real-time feedback, you'll get an email and it'll say, all right, you have new data to review, or you have a new product market fit score, and boom, you can go view it over a period of time. So we're not just bringing people to you, we're doing the heavy lifting of customer discovery for you.
So question, what are some options to monetize this?
Monthly subscription. Right now we've paid for a customer.
For the founder?
Yeah, for the founder. Around $20 to $30 a month for 5 to 10 survey responses per month. But we're playing around with those unit economics. We could probably go up in terms of the amount of respondents. Right now, we validated the platform through CD Concierge, like Customer Discovery Concierge, where we go out and we just recruit the people and bring them to you. All right. And that's been really simple. $1,000 for 30 early adopters. We're like, sure, we'll go find them. And then a premium subscription, because the goal of having all this data on the platform is to eventually build a predictive validation model. That's going to be Customer Discovery AI or product market fit AI. We don't know the name yet.
Yeah.
But taking all that data, putting it into a linear regression model helps us basically predict future results based on past results. And that helps founders get a lot more feedback in a lot less time.
So you've been through some valleys and mountains over the years. How do you plan to fund the next stage of development?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of things. How into revenue and dollar signs do we want to go? As deep as we want to go?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so yeah, I think that is helpful to get into. I was just speaking about this with someone today. So we got that first client for $3,600 a month. Okay, upsold them. They're paying a lot more now. Got a few other customers in the pipeline, sold them, and then we realized, do we really need to raise investment? Lean Discovery Group is a money making machine, right? And I've gotten contracts now, and I'll talk about money because I want to show you guys. Remember, I couldn't break into the tech industry. In less than a year, I'm making $16,000 a month off of one contract.
Dude, that's awesome.
And the business, Lean Discovery Group, is making roughly $10,000 a month. $26,000 in total. Just got approached by another agency today that they want me to lead a redesign of an insurance mobile app. And that'll be $3,000 per week, $100 an hour for 30 hours a week. So in total, that's over $30-something thousand a month. That's revenue of north of that's $408,000 a year. $408,000 a year. That's crazy to think, right? And what I'm getting at is, if we have that revenue, and as long as it doesn't require my full-time attention, because I have people that can do the work, for me, some of it does take my time. I have to be in those meetings. I have a BDR that can go out and get more contracts, right? And we're doing government contracting too. We're trying to get into that.
What is BDR?
Business development rep, so a salesperson, okay. Right? So if I have a salesperson that can go out and do that, and that can get us to $1 million in annual recurring revenue, and I can leverage that revenue to put it into customerdiscovery.co, either just taking the money out and putting it somewhere else, or pulling out a business loan. Why would I choose to make someone else rich that's making life so much more difficult for me? I.e. investors that have never grown a business and don't see the validation, don't see the idea. How about I make my people rich? How about I make my employees that helped us get there I make my company entirely employee owned. Why don't I do that instead? Well,
Yeah.
that's the happy path, right? If all else fails, I can raise investment. Well, optimistically speaking, I can raise investment at later stages when we have more traction. We have 159 users now. But for now, like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense putting a lot of effort there when we can prioritize revenue instead.
Yeah. Right now, money, bird in the hand is better than two in the bush.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good way to
You
put
have
it.
more control over your company. There's a lot of benefits to bootstrapping and building up your own.
Yeah, and I know talking about money, well, on a business podcast, I guess it's more normal, but it's like normally that you wouldn't want to talk about stuff like that. But when you get to the point where you realize, like, there's people trying to break into the tech industry, and they're
Making
like,
hope, dude.
yeah, dude, it gave me hope. Like, I was like, I can't believe I've done this.
Heck yeah.
I didn't care at all. Can I curse on this podcast?
Go ahead, man.
I didn't give two shits about graduating from college.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to go to my graduation, but my parents did. But doing all of this, inventing new technology and seeing yourself go up in terms of revenue and seeing other people, like, I've had people come to me crying. They're like, this is my first paid tech opportunity and stuff like that. Like, that means a lot.
You're a rainmaker, bro.
This is the first time I've been, like, really proud of myself. You know what I mean? And I think that's important for people to understand.
You're creating jobs for your employees, helping people start companies, like
trying to, trying to fuel the economy one step at a time. We're trying. Yeah.
It's great, man. So this is a selfish part of the interview, but I want to ask you, have you considered crowdfunding this venture?
Yeah. So I have many times, and I would love to allocate like a certain percentage of the company to do that. Yeah. I really would. I want to, because if you hear our ethos and how we're about, like, bringing it to the people rather than the people in the suits, and you're like,
very populist.
Yeah. Like,
power to the people.
Exactly. Power to the people. Like, let's empower the individuals. I would love to let people who are passionate about it. I would like to let creators invest, not just anybody off the street, but like founders who are seeing the value in this, and they think it could be an ongoing tool for them to build new products and be an outlet for that idea. Because you and I both know, when we get ideas, it's great. We see the good side of things, like it can value people, but if you don't do anything with it, it stays here. Yeah, right. You have to do something.
It's got a shelf life.
Yeah, it has a shelf life. And when it expires, it ain't good. Right. And that's really what I wanted to build this for, a vessel so that people like myself can go, and it's like a startup playground, man. Like, go out there, play with it, see if it sticks, and if it does, grow. So I want those people to own part of the business. You know what I mean? Not the person just looking to buy another yacht.
You're experimenting with like new models, man. It's interesting to hear people say stuff like that, because it's not how business has been done for so long. And like, I'm interviewing a 28-year-old founder. You're talking about an employee-owned company. Like, I think that's a little bit more common in Europe, but like in the US, I mean, that's like unheard of, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're definitely looking towards the next wave of how people invest, who owns companies. Like, the world's going to look very different in the next, 10, 20 years. And I'm really happy to have a front row seat to it.
Not a front row seat. Like, you're doing it. We talked about that. Like, we're removing the gate. When I say we, I mean you. Yeah. Removing the gatekeepers from the biggest barrier to entry of a startup founder, raising funds. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's put that in the hands of the other people who are also doing the same thing, who know a good idea from a bad idea, not just from EBITDA. Yeah, but from the fact of, like, this is valuable. Like, who is a better judge, right? Like, that's important.
I love it because it taps into the wisdom of crowds, and it allows ordinary people to be that gatekeeper. Yeah. You're allowing the marketplace to be the gatekeeper, not some dude in a suit who he's like power tripping and he thinks, like he's the judge that can command, who can make it to market. Like, that this is one person making a, just a value judgment. He's living in his own echo chamber. There's no way he can efficiently allocate capital better than the wisdom of crowds. Like, let it just be totally decentralized. Let people decide what products make it to the market.
Yeah. When you say that, that makes me think you need to start your own crypto for Fsh Tank, and let people invest through their value.
I've heard that, like, with tokens and stuff, it's changing the way.
That's what we want to do. Yeah. We're going to start the Discovery token. And I was like, I don't have time to launch an entire blockchain right now. I have too much going
I know,
on.
dude. Like,
But you could pay someone to knock it out. It's like $2,000.
really?
Yeah, because there's developers that just specialize in that, and they'll have like 10 orders going on. They're making like $20,000 a month just to like launch new blockchain networks. We have to let them know what smart contracts what your smart contracts are going to look like, what's unique about it, and they'll do it for you.
Yeah, we should bring Lionel on the podcast soon. Lionel's running a crypto gaming
Really?
startup.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It would be cool to kind of bounce some ideas off him and see what he thinks about this whole.
We should all three launch our own cryptocurrency. I'm so serious.
Totally. All right. So, so you are considering crowdfunding and then maybe opening it up to employees or other founders to invest?
I've considered it many times, and yeah. I mean, I want to. It's just that I think we need to get to, like, ethically speaking, I don't want people to invest yet.
Yeah.
I want them to see version 2.0. I want them to try it out, play around with it. Then I feel good about them investing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. So if you could look into a crystal ball and see the world in 5 years, how will customerdiscovery.co have impacted the world?
I love these questions. I love ambiguity and how you can kind of, there's all these opportunities, but here's the one that I want. And I want it to be a place to where someone's unhappy with their job and they have this idea for what would make them happy, like this passion pursuit, right? Because not enjoying your job can, in fact, it can negatively affect a lot of other aspects of your life, right? So, giving you a vehicle to say, this idea that you love and you believe it's valuable for working moms, for lawyers, for, gym bros, I don't know, and you want to make a life out of it because you're passionate about it, validate it at customerdiscovery.co, get that data back. And then using the product market fit AI, like, do it in less time. And within 1 to 3 months, man, put in that 2 weeks notice, go pursue this thing and not just validate it, but let's provide that path for like fundraising. Let's provide that path for how to build more feasibly. Maybe we'll have a prototype into it one day. I don't know. And really like integrate with Fsh Tank and have that crowdsourcing option, because that was part of the initial MVP to do that. Right. So why wouldn't we combine efforts and we'd say, all right, you're also looking for funding. Yeah. The people say this is a good idea, not some guy in a high castle with a suit. That dude right next to you that's also coding every day, that's working 15 hours a day. They took time out of the day and they thought that was valuable enough to, put money for it. There you go.
I love it, man. Thank you, Ethan. It's been great.
It's been great, man. Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was good. Damn, it sounds so different.